Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie comic interview. It's your host, Cody, your Caped Crusader. And we're keeping it geekly. Yes, this is your number one spot for all things geek culture, from comic books to video games and everything in between. We are joined today by my good friend, Todd Black of Tokyo Blade Detectives. Welcome to the stream. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. How are you doing, Todd? Welcome, man.
Doing well. Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, not a problem, man. So why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown of who you are and what drove you into comics? We were talking a little bit previously, and man, you have done, you said like 40 books in 8 years. Holy crap.
Yeah. I've done a bit. I've done a bit. So yeah, I got into comics because I grew up on like superhero TV shows like Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, X-Men, Spider-Man, all of them. And eventually, when I got out of college, I was just like, you know what, it'd be cool to make my own comic book. So after getting some advice and spending a couple of years getting money to pay people, who knew you had to pay people to make comics? And finding the right artist, I made my first comic series, a superhero series called Guardians. And then as time went on, I started to branch out into other genres and other stories, and eventually that became a miniseries, a graphic novel, a science comic, some wrestling comics, and now an anime comic with Tokyo Blade Detectives. So it's been a fun journey, and I've got a lot more stories I want to tell. So
yeah, so let's just break it off right from the beginning with Guardians. What was Guardians about? What was your inspiration with it? And let's just kind of follow how it bled into one another leading up to Tokyo Blade Detectives.
Sure. So Guardians is about two beings created by a deity to protect a city in need. They were given great power, perfect control of their power, zero people skills. And this led to a question of, how do we interact with people, and is there more to my life than just this purpose? My basis of it was I wanted to do a different kind of superhero story, one that felt special in various ways, and I just like the idea of these heroes, you know, not being raised to be heroes or having like that guiding light or purpose, but just, hey, you were born now, go and help these people. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting dynamic, and I've made 20 issues of that. And then around the time, I went full tilt on that. I thought that would be my only comic series for a long time because I had so many story ideas for it. And I want to go back to it one day, but I'm taking a break because I'll get all these other comic stories out of my head. One of which, then that led to a comic book contest. There was one held by Oni Press. You familiar with them?
I'm not. So what is Oni Press?
Oni Press is one of the more renowned smaller publishers. They've worked with ones like Charles Soule and others for some very interesting books, and they had a comic book contest say like, submit your pitch, and if we like it, we'll help you make it. And the only caveat, the two caveats were it had to be a mini-series or graphic novel, and it couldn't be superheroes. And I'm like, well, darn, because that's what I have right now. But so I submitted two ideas to them. One was a fantasy miniseries called Home, and one was a graphic novel called 10,000 Miles. And both of my ideas got rejected. So I just decided, you know what? I really need to start branching out my craft. I want to reach more people, more readers, expand my fan base. And so I just went to Kickstarter, and I went to get Home funded, all 5 issues, and I did that. Then I got 10,000 Miles funded on Kickstarter. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, you really just hit the street running. Holy crap. I'm still like trying to get over the fact that you did Guardian in 20 issues. Did you do any of that on Kickstarter, or was that all just like,
I tried, actually.
God, wow, dude.
I tried, yeah. I'm not afraid to say I almost went broke doing Guardians a few times, but I wanted to keep making my comics, so I kept making them. And I had an artist who was very understanding, and we worked out a deal so that he could get a good pay, but also make comics for me. And then, but with Home and 10,000 Miles, I knew those would be much higher priced projects. So, and I had a new team for Home, so I went to Kickstarter, and I got all 5 issues funded, and then I got 10,000 Miles funded, which is still my highest grossing Kickstarter ever. And then after that, I started doing some other projects, including some novels, like prose novels. I found out that Sherlock Holmes was public domain, so I wrote 5 books about him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, dude.
And then eventually, after all those ideas were done, and another science project I did got done, I went into Tokyo Blade Detectives, which is my anime comic, and I poured like every single love of anime that I've had before or since into that book. So
what type of influences are we looking to see within it then?
Like literally every anime I've ever watched. there's references to I've never watched Naruto, but I know a lot of people that do. So there's references to Naruto, Digimon. There's actually a wrestling reference to a Japanese joshi, a female wrestler from Japan, called Asuka, because I totally have a crush on her. She could break me in half, but I don't care. And there's even a reference.
Do it good, mommy. Do it good.
I could make a joke here, but I won't. There's even references to Shredder, Samurai Jack, and all these other shows that just influenced me as a kid that had references to Japan or ties to Japan, and it's just so much fun. Then I even went into to the history and lore of Japan, so that I knew how to, what to call these things, what their basis was, because I wanted everything to be about Japan, because it's set in Japan, it's Tokyo, but also be like my love letter to all things anime.
So how was it transitioning, I guess, from all these different types of comics to something that was anime based? I mean, was it a big jump for you in terms of writing? Was it harder to find an artist for this type of animation?
No, that part was hard, because even though I've had a go-to artist that I've used for many of my books that I've mentioned, I didn't want to use him for this one, even though he did a test page for me and I thought it was fine. I wanted it to feel I wanted it to feel like an anime, because my dream is very much to make these books and then have it become an anime eventually, because I feel it has that aesthetic and power. But finding the artist was so hard, because I needed someone who could both deliver the anime aesthetic but also deliver intense action and these effects, especially with the laser swords that I have my main characters use. And that's when I found Lam Vuvan, who absolutely blew me away with his ability to render action and special effects in the scenes. And he is an incredible artist, and as we show off the 5 pages that I sent you, he is really detailed in what he does, and he can really make a page pop, and so I'm very grateful to have him. As for the writing part, my blessing in this, that's the word, was that I've done so many genres by this point that it's really just, focusing in on how I want to make this one stand out from others, while also paying tribute to the anime that have come before. So when I had the idea for Tokyo, which is its own story, the floodgates of my mind opened up, and it was just here's all the stuff you need to put into the book. So I literally wrote an outline for everything, which is not something I typically do. And I was like, okay, here's this thing and 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 this thing. And then I was like, okay, how do I put that into a script? So it took me a while, and even had a editor help me out, because that's needed many times.
So,
and good.
I was gonna say, you have such an outstanding amount of work underneath your belt. Do you ever find it hard, I guess, to turn it off? It just seems like you're always going with the writing and with the ideas. Does that ever become problematic for you?
At times. I'll give you a great example. My mind is so, I know it's going to sound self-deprecating, but it's meant to be. I don't have a lot to offer as a human being. I've got my hair, which is currently wet because I took a shower an hour ago.
Nice hair. That is some
Thank
good
you.
hair.
Wait, you should see it when it's fully furrowed. And I got my hair, and I got my creativity. That's it. But my problem is that my creativity is so, I like to say, grand, that I can get inspiration and ideas from almost anything. And a great example is that I was playing a video game recently called Triangle Strategy. Terrible name, great game.
Such a good game. God, it's gorgeous.
It's a terrible name, but it's a great game. I mean, level with me here. Doesn't Scales of Conviction sound like a better title?
Yeah, I mean, so I'd probably take a stab and say you probably loved Final Fantasy Tactics, huh?
I actually never played it.
What?
I know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually not the biggest Final Fantasy fan. I love RPGs. Never really got into Final Fantasy. But anyway, so I'm playing Triangle Strategy, and I was really enjoying the storyline between Sereno and Frederica, and their arranged marriage. I'm like, you know what? If they did this with this and this with this, that could be a really interesting story. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates opened again. And it was just like, stop it! No, because now I have another story idea, and I'm like, dude, you already have that one. You already have your space cowboy story that you want to do. You already have that space story you want to do. You have that dumb romance graphic novel that you want to do for some stupid reason because you don't like romance and you somehow like this idea, And it's just I've got all these stories, and now I have another novel idea, and I'm just like, gosh dang it! So
I mean, some people might look at that like, I wish I had that though, you know?
I know. It sounds like, wait a minute, he's complaining because he has ideas. Like, yes, because I like these ideas and I want to get them done now. And I have, like, the reason that Tokyo, I had in my head for over 2 years before I finally made it, because I had all these other projects that I needed to do, and I wasn't in a financially stable position to go and get it made, even with a Kickstarter. So I was like, this is great, but I've got to push it back. And so now I've got like this queue, if you will, of all these ideas that I want to do, including what I want to do once I've got Tokyo Blade Detectives more or less squared away for now. And it's like, okay, then there's this one, then there's this one, then there's this one, and now, and I love that because it means I have things to go off of. But it's like, it would be nice just to get these done, then go, okay, what can I do now? But instead, it's like, no, this is a good idea. No, that's a good idea. Put it in your brain.
I want to take a moment real quick to say good morning to Uni over at Twitch and Lori over on Facebook. Thank you guys for joining us. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and I will be sure to ask Todd as well. So Todd, you kind of lined up my next question perfectly. I was about to ask you, like, with all these ideas, like, how do you pick which ones to do first? But let's go ahead, like, you're with your queue, like, what goes into your queue process? Like, if you want to break that down for us.
Most times it's literally what came next. For example, when I did the Oni Press submissions, I submitted Home first, and then I did 10,000 Miles, and I felt that Home was arguably the stronger of the two at the time, because it was a fantasy sci-fi, it was a mini series, I knew I could break it down, and at that point in time I had never had a successful Kickstarter, including with Guardians, which again I had already gotten done, and I was using it more or less to ship the books out, but I never could get it to work. So with Home, that was like my first Kickstarter success, and I used that to kind of build up my core fan base, which has supported me through 11 Kickstarters, with Tokyo now, Tokyo number 5 being funded, at our funding goal currently. And then then I was like, okay, now the Home's done, I got 10,000 Miles, and then some other things fell into place, so I had to work onto those next. Sometimes a project will be one like, oh, you need to do this now. Like, I was working on a wrestling comic, and and that one was precedent because I was working with the wrestler on it at the current time.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, are you familiar with AEW?
Yeah. What wrestler? Dude, let's go. How was that? That had to have been such an insane experience for you.
Oh, you have no idea. So, I had actually never heard of Thunder Rosa before AEW, which is not technically surprising because she was mainly an indie wrestler in Mexico and such, and NWA. She comes to AEW, and I'm with this friends group, and two of my friends, Maria and Jack, are like huge Thunder Rosa fans, and they knew that I had been trying for years to get AEW to let me make a comic for them. I even gave the book to some of their people and even showed it to Tony Khan himself. So yeah, so he knows I exist. You know I exist, Tony. And then they were like, why don't you ask Thunder Rosa if she can make a comic for you? Or if you can make a comic for her? And I'm like, how would I contact her exactly? They go,
how do you just ask that question too, you know?
There's a twist here. That's where the twist comes in. She goes, oh, there's a email link on her website. Like, really? It's usually never that easy. So I go to her website and I take the email and I say, hi, Thunder Rosa, my name's Todd Black. I'm a comic writer. And, I was wondering, would you like to, maybe have a comic made of your life story? And I sent the email and I go back to my friends. I go, there, email sent. I'll never hear back from her. 5 minutes later, she gets back to me and goes, yeah, that's a great idea.
You're probably like, oh shit, what do I do now?
Kind of. I'm like, how is it this easy? I've had, and this is not a slight on publishers, but I've talked with publishers and they've like promised me things and it's never worked out. And then, and I went in with like maximum expectations. And with this, it was like, I have no expectations to talk with Thunder Rosa. She's never going to answer me back. And 5 minutes later, yeah, Todd, I'll love to have you make my comic. I'm like, how?
So you just throwing it at the wall, seeing if it sticks, and it sounds better than anything else. That's wild.
That's the story of my life, right there.
We had a good question
throw it
for
at
you.
Wall and see if it sticks.
We had a good question for you from Lori. And kind of touching base on earlier, how do you manage writing all the projects? Do you schedule time for each one, or just as they come?
That's a great question, Lori. And let me pull down my chart to show you. No. The answer is when I have a project, like say with Tokyo, and I know I need to get it done, what I will do is either plan out a day when I want to get the work done, and sometimes that's hard because I do have a day. I just want to be clear here. I love making comics. It is not my full-time job. All right.
Yeah.
I've made 40 comics plus some novels while also having multiple day jobs and everything. So yeah, money's got to come from somewhere. So, but I always do my best to plan some time to get the writing done. And sometimes it'll take me a couple hours. Sometimes it'll take me a day. Sometimes it'll take me, 2 days, depending on how much time I have left. But I always endeavor to get the comic written as fast as I can so that I can then send it to my editor or know that I have it done. And then if I'm happy with it, then I'll send it to my artist, or if my editor needs some changes, I'll get that done. And Tokyo especially, I've had editors look over it and say like, you might need to change this, or what about this, and blah, blah, blah. So
I really
it's
think
a process.
Yeah, I think kind of giving yourself a short window kind of helps too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've read a lot and I've kind of experienced a lot, not in terms of creating comics, but just in other projects. Like if you give yourself 6 months to do it, you'll do it in 6 months. But if you give yourself 3 months to do it, you'll do it in 3.
Yeah,
or you'll find a way. Yeah,
life finds a way. But yeah, and for me, I know how fast I can write, and I'm not trying to be a bragger, but that I honestly do type fast, as my jobs repeatedly remind me, like, wait, you're done now? So with the scripts, I can usually get like a 20-page script, which is what Tokyo is, in about a few hours if I know the story. And then if it's a longer one, I know that I'll take a couple days, and so I'll do chunks and try and make sure I keep my flow going.
Yeah. So do you find yourself working on your comics at work a lot, like getting work done way faster than you're supposed to, and just trying to nail out like scripts or ideas?
Honestly, that's a tricky one to answer, because for me, I only take it one script at a time. So, for example, there are a few exceptions, of course, but with Tokyo, I'm focused on Tokyo Blade Detectives number 5 right now. Do I know loosely what's going to happen in number 6? Yes, but I won't write that one until I know it's time to work on it, because there's number 5 to do, and I have other things I can do and other projects I can take care of. Like my triangle strategy novel that I am now writing. So yay. I couldn't get it out of my head, man. It was just like, fine, I'll write it. Gosh, dang it. So
I love the real-time strategy aspect to it. I was never really big on those type of games, but I love it when it's like an RPG setting for whatever reason.
Yeah,
it's just, and then the graphics. I mean, I was a big fan of Octopath Traveler as well.
Love Octopath.
Yes. Even though the story could have been a little bit better, I enjoyed the graphics, and the combat just brought me back to being a kid again, you know?
Yeah, it was fun and retro in all the right ways. But yeah, I don't like overwriting, if you will, because I've always accepted that my future, both in terms of writing just in general, is never certain. So for all I know, the Kickstarter that I'm currently running could have failed, and if that happens, then there's no point in writing 6 and 7, because I've already failed with 5. So I try and take it one at a time. That way it gives me a kind of a focus about what I need to get done. And then, but there are exceptions. Like I've written scripts for publishers because they've wanted to take a look at what I wanted to get done. So I would write the script and send it to them, and now I have it in my back pocket for when I'm ready to get it done. So it really just depends on the timing and what my focus is at the time.
So before we kind of start diving into Tokyo Blade Detectives, you've mentioned before that you've had some experiences with failing Kickstarters, and then you've had your experiences with successful ones. Why, and if this is a little bit more of a tougher question to answer, just let me know. But why do you think it was that you failed your first project, and then what did you learn from that kind of made you, helped you, actually fund your next one?
I was an idiot. My first Kickstarter, I swear to God, I was at college, and I thought, I could do Kickstarter. Kickstarter is easy. And I want to be clear here. When I was in college, I did not have social media. I had not made a single thing to my name that was tangible and can show my skills and whatever. I just thought, I could do Kickstarter. That's an easy thing. So I made a project called, and I swear this is the title, The Next Stan Lee.
Oh no.
Yes. I asked for $500, and I said, help me make comics so that I can be the next Stan Lee. I didn't get a single pledge. But again, at the time, I had nothing really. I was just like, launch the project, it'll fund itself, please.
You should have went with Kirby instead, man.
Excelsior. the next time though, I was still an idiot because I still didn't understand certain things about how to run an acceptable, let's call it that, an acceptable Kickstarter.
Mhm.
I got funding, I didn't get funded though.
So what's an acceptable Kickstarter though?
One that you can actually do. Like the second one that I did was one called Project Guardian, which was actually a precursor to the Guardians comic, and I wanted to make a video game as well. So I actually bundled them together and go like, oh yeah, here's my goal. I asked for a totally unacceptable amount of money to get this done. I actually
How much was it?
Like a couple thousand to make like a video game and a comic book series. Again, I was an idiot. I didn't understand, and I'm more than that. Trust me, I call myself an idiot often. But I was just like, I didn't understand, and then by the time when I did Guardians, like the actual comic, I went full tilt. I went like super epic trailer. This is when I knew how to use After Effects and had a computer that could run it. I did like super epic trailer. I already had comics done. I did everything, and I still couldn't get funded. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And so when I did Home, I had my social media. I had a team that could promote it more or less, which has honestly been one of the biggest struggles. I always seem to find people who don't have social media presences, so I'm the only one plugging the book. But it's fine. I make it work. But with that one, I had a team that could promote with me, and I went to as many websites and podcasts as I could to plug it. And to my surprise, I got funded. And I was asking for a strong amount. I was asking for $2,500. I got like $2,800, I believe it was. And I was just like, I got funded.
Like looking at the phone, like double checking the refresh, like, is this right?
I had a pledge that was for well over what the backing or reward was, kind of like the one I told you about earlier. And I'm like, oh, and no kidding, before that pledge, I had saw a story of a Kickstarter that missed funding by a few $100s because a guy made a massive pledge like the day before and then canceled it like an hour before the Kickstarter
Is that
ended.
Something that happens on Kickstarter? Like almost, oh my God, that's
it
like
sucked.
such.
And that was paranoid me to death because I was just like, because it was enough to send me into not funded and I would have lost everything, even though it raised this incredible amount of money. Thankfully, it went through and all that. But once I got that, I'm like, okay, this is my benchmark. This is what I have to do. And so with all 5 issues of Home and 10,000 Miles, which I had asked for more because that was a graphic novel. And then with Tokyo, eventually, I did my best to promote, make sure I had, pages of art to show. I did podcasts and interviews. I tried to send out press releases and newsletters and whatever so that I could actually have a chance. And because of this and because of my consistency and, getting out my rewards to make sure they're quality and whatever, or if there is a delay, I tell my backers, which has happened before. I have gotten this core fan base, which has helped me get funded, and now with Tokyo Bay Detectives #5 reaching its funding goal currently, I have had 11 straight successful Kickstarters.
You did that you said 13 hours too, right?
Yeah, for #5, wow. I hit my funding goal in 13 hours, which is something that blew me away, and now we're like at 240% funded, which is awesome. But also, I don't want to demean my own the accomplishment here. I was only asking for $750 because I was in a position where I could put more into the comics so that I didn't have to ask as much of the backers. And yet, but then I still reached it in hours flat, and then shot past it. So it is a good feeling, and I was like, oh wow, I'm funded. I can stress less now. Oh, I haven't stressed less at all.
What all did you do in terms of getting the word out for issue #5? Like you said, any sort of newsletter? Did you do like a pre-launch campaign?
Yeah, I did do that. Like that was not something I was interested in. Kickstarter didn't have that when I was first doing Home and 10,000 Miles. It happened with Tokyo Bay Detectives, or I think it was around #3 or 4. And the first time I only got 13 people. And I was like, that's fine. They'll come eventually. And they did. The second time I got 20. And then for this one, I was like, I want to push it. I want to get people signed up so that they know to pledge on first day. And it kind of worked because I got 41 people to pre-launch sign up. And then like the first day or two, I had about 35 backers. So I was close enough to the sign up.
Do you think a lot of that came from like the pre-save?
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
Like, was there a way that like maybe track that metric, or like do you just had a feeling about that?
I think the dashboard on
I got you. Yeah,
I pointed out for some reason.
Anytime I talk to creators, I always try to learn a little piece of nugget for myself too. So I've talked about Kickstarter a lot, but I guess I've talked about pre-launches and the importance of them, but never like how that really translate in you know what I mean, like in terms of like.
Yeah. It's very much for those who know they want to pledge on day one, or at the very least get an email saying, hey, this thing has launched. Like, that's all it is you sign up and then you get an email saying, hey, it's launched. So go pledge. And a lot of people do. And again, I had 40 people sign up, and then I had like 33 backers within like the first day or so.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that was great. And again, between those 33 backers, I reached my funding goal, which is what I wanted. And then it's only just taken off from there, and I'm grateful for that. So, and then for next time, I will try and shoot to maybe get like 50 people to sign up, or higher. And and then after I did the pre-launch, I started setting up interviews so that it would happen either after the launch or near the end, like what I'm doing with you. So it's very much process and trying to do more. I will say I think I could have done a little bit more, but that's just me looking back in hindsight. I could have done things a little bit more. I'm horrible on Instagram, for example.
I think every creator kind of gets that though. Every Kickstarter they do, there's something they bring to the table next time that they didn't do previously that makes it better. Well, speaking of Kickstarter, let's go ahead and start breaking down the Kickstarter for Tokyo Blade Detective issue number 5. I'm going to go ahead and add it to screen. So once again, congratulations. We're at 1,831 of 750. Holy crap, that's such an outstanding job. So let's go ahead and just start breaking down Tokyo Blade Detectives issue number 5. So what is it? What's it about? And what can we expect?
Well, let me just talk about the series first for the listeners out there. Yeah. Tokyo Blade Detectives is set 200 years into the future-ish, and it's in a version of Japan that's been burned to the ground by war, rebuilt with technology, and to try and stop the madness, they've made a law that no one can break. No guns allowed. The problem with this is that they've made a power vacuum. So with their technology, they've made laser swords. And this has given rise to 5 factions which are trying to overthrow the government. And in Tokyo itself, it's pretty much chaos because anything can happen at any time. And stuck in the middle of this is a 16-year-old detective named Miko. And in the first arc, she got a case that literally sets up everything that's going to happen in the next however many issues it takes to get there. And this is the official second arc, the start of the second arc, where she and her business partner Michio, are hired by a businessman to stop an assassin known as one of the Nine Tails. So
I gotcha.
This one's gonna be very action oriented.
So what's up with all these like 16-year-olds not able to live a typical high school life? They're just thrown into chaos and violence.
One word, anime.
You mentioned that guns were banned. Was that like any sort of influence from what was happening over in the UK, how they like banned guns, and there was like a lot of like knife violence that occurred afterwards?
I actually did not know that. No, what happened was, and this actually tied back to the origins of the comic series, I was on Facebook, and those like little memes that go like, what's your first letter of your first name, last letter of your last name, and then like, this is your yada yada yada. Mine was, what is your anime title? And I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. So it was first letter of your first name, Todd, T. First letter of your last name, Black, B. And last letter of your first name, Todd, D. So it was Tokyo Blade Detectives. And you
gotta be fucking joking.
I swear that is what happened. But
oh my God.
But here's the twist. I didn't think anything of it at the time.
That's so insane. This man is unstoppable, dude.
I kid you not. I didn't think of anything. I was just trying to fulfill the meme. So at the time, this was like 2016-ish. Deadpool had just come out, the first one, and if you recall, there was a line in there that goes, Deadpool sounds like a franchise. So I liked that line, so I go, Tokyo Blade Detective sounds like a franchise. Hit enter, left the page. Go back a few hours later, and I got a comment from a guy I didn't recognize. I'm like, what's this about? So I go in, and sure enough, he goes, that actually does sound like a franchise. You should do something with it. So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, all right, so Tokyo, Blade, detectives. And I started thinking about it and like, okay, so Tokyo is set in Japan, obviously. Detectives, that's a modern day.
Mm-hmm.
Blade. Why blades? Like, I'm gonna imagine this is an anime, so and if it's modern day, that means there's guns around. Why aren't they around? Why are these detectives using blades? And then the line hit me. In a land where guns are outlawed, only the blade can rule. And that is when the floodgates open. And I'm like,
let's go. Let's
yeah,
go.
it's like that was it. I was like, come on, we got this.
So unreal. Like you're like able to like pull stories from just memes and like meme generators. Like,
yeah.
At what point do you stop? You're gonna take over the world one day.
Oh, I mean, that's the plan. Yeah.
So is this like an intro video?
Yeah, yeah. I got a video. It's basically.
Yeah, we can watch it if you want.
I'd rather not.
Oh, hey, we. Not a problem.
The webcam I'm on now is not the one I had when I made my video, so it's a little poor quality. Besides, I'd rather just show you the pages and talk about the art, or the art and the reward tiers, because they'll speak better volumes. But yeah, that's how it happened, and now I'm 5 issues in, and I'm very proud of what we've made so far.
So 81 backers, 9 days to go.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and start breaking it down. So right here's the story, and I think you kind of gave us a little bit of a rundown with that, but was there anything that you missed that you wanted to kind of give to our audience?
That right there on the first page, that figure is one of the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails are the assassins of Tokyo and Japan, and they're literally 9 people, reference to the nine-tailed fox, and each one of them has a skill level. And the higher you are, the higher your tail rank, if you will. And as we'll find out, that's the 9th tail. That's the newest member of the group. And he's sent on this mission to kind of prove himself. And he's no slouch. He is meant to be one of the greatest assassins in all of Japan. And now Miko and Michio have to go and fight him. And as you can see in that page, it's not going well. So,
yeah.
And that page, right? Yeah. And there's a better look at him. But that first page was one I was like, I want to start this one out with a bang, and that was like the best way I could think of, like shadow fights with the laser swords, and you could see like the flowing motions. That's something Lam does really well. Yeah. And it's really, really fun. So.
Man, she's just trying to do her schoolwork, and she's about to get killed by one of these Nine Tails.
Oh, please! She doesn't go to school. She's too much of a brat.
All right, and then this kind of gives us a breakdown of Tokyo as well. I really enjoy the colors, the shadowing. The artist is phenomenal. Like this lighting looks gorgeous right here. The way the background's just illuminated. Yeah,
I want to pause right here because on that right there, that second page with the gray figures, one of the rewards we have is that you can get drawn into the comic, and that's the panel where you'll be drawn in.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So like that was a key thing, and then as you see here with Miko, like that the holographic figure, that's her business partner Michio. And they're about to get contacted for a job, and so you get to see like the holographic wrist gauntlet that she has. We show that a lot in the first arc.
Which that looks good too. That's awesome. A lot of like just sources of media like in general have a hard time like nailing that holographic look, and I think your artist was able to really capture it like successfully.
Yeah, Lam is really good. Like this would not be the same without Lam. So. Yeah, and then here we have a very key moment where Miko has a flashback to her own mother, and it's very personal, which is something that animes absolutely do, but sometimes get forgotten. Is that they do really good on character development.
Oh my god, sometimes too good. Like, then they end up killing off that character. It's like, why?
Because George R. R. Martin told us to. No. Like that final set of panels right there is one of my favorite ones that I have ever done. Scroll down. Those two. Yeah, that's one of my favorite sets of panels that I've ever had in my comic, because on the left side is her in her younger form. She's so happy, she's so vibrant, you can see the color scheme, and then on the next panel is her in the modern day, gloomy. And she has a shadow on her face, looking up versus looking down. It's a beautiful thing, and that's why I really like working with Mom.
15 to 16, just years of high school. I feel it. I've been there. Yeah. So guess who's back? And this is kind of a breakdown for us.
Yeah. I try and keep it simple with the body of it. Just finding what the story is going to be. This arc is called The Contract because it's about a contract killing, And here's another look at the ninth tail.
So what was your inspiration for this ninth tail? Like when you were telling the artist kind of your idea of what to design, like what type of footnotes did you give?
Well, for the nine tails, I was actually inspired by Digimon. There is in Digimon Season 3, that's Tamers, the character Rika has a Digimon, Renamon, who in her Mega form is called Sakuyamon, and she had this beautiful golden armor, which is a reference to the nine-tailed fox.
Mm-hmm.
Renamon's whole arc was basically the nine-tailed fox, but I liked that I loved the armor. The armor had a really nice look, and so when I made the Nine Tails, I actually named their leader Rika after the Digimon tamer, and then made the armor basically the Sakuyamon armor, and then just changed the color scheme for every single one to reference their rank in the Nine Tails.
So check this out. I think you'll like this. I had this custom made from Etsy.
You can't see it, but I have the crest of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Matt's crest of friendship, and I also had Ty's crest of courage at one time, but I lost it.
See, this is why I'm surrounded by all my geek stuff, because it comes in handy during these interviews. Like, I don't know it at the time, but it's time for me to bring it in, you know.
Geeky we are. So, but yeah, like that's just another great example of me being influenced by my anime, because if I didn't know about Sakuyamon, I wouldn't have thought of using that kind of armor style for the Nine Tails, and yet it totally works. So.
All right, so let's go ahead and start scrolling it down. We got Lori in the chat. Sips tea and kills all characters. I think that might be a hint. I think that's an indication of something for Lori's story as well. Lori's another awesome indie creator for Path of the Pale Rider issue #1. Such an awesome campaign going on as well. So right here gives us the breakdown of the Nine Tails. And
yeah. I also note that in this arc, we're going to be a little more self-contained, because obviously the first arc had to be about world building. But with this one, we're going to kind of boil it down to this particular struggle to keep the client alive from the Nine Tails. And I even note that the next issue is basically going to be my version of the raid. So incredible action sequences are coming, but we got to get through this issue first.
So how many Nine Tails are we looking at having them face during
Spoilers.
this? Okay, all right. We'll back up. We'll back it up. Not a problem. So the new arc and honoring the first.
Yeah, basically I wanted to make something special with the new one while also continuing on with it. Like Tokyo is, like I said, was inspired by many things, but one of the ones that I really felt connected with was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh yeah, that's another good one. Yeah,
one of the best animes I have ever watched. Full stop. And the reason for that is that everything mattered. Everything mattered. Every character you met, every storyline that was had, it all interwove into this absolutely beautiful testament to what anime
It's funny
can
you
be.
said that, because like I've watched the very first Full Metal Alchemist, and then my girlfriend's always telling me I need to watch that one, and I've never made time to watch it. And just the fact that you're saying that right now, she'd be in the back saying like, I told you so.
Yeah, but remember, it's Brotherhood. Don't watch Full Metal Alchemist. That one was where they went off book. When they stuck with what was actually in the book or the manga, that's when they excelled, and it's beautiful thing. And again, everything matters in that book, and that's why with Tokyo, I wanted to have that appeal where every arc always ties into the next story and the overall plan. Like I will not spoil it, but there is something that happens in this arc that ties into a major plot line to come. And the same thing will happen with the next arc and the next arc, and then we're going to have that big reveal about how it all ties together. But then it'll start building towards the next thing, and it's great stuff. And I wanted to make like this super multi-level story that still tells a story within each arc, but then slowly builds to this crescendo, and then we start all over again.
So are these able to be like standalone issues as much as like a piece to a much larger puzzle?
Yeah, I do my best with each issue, especially since I have to do this on Kickstarter, to make sure that every issue is entertaining, every issue is fun and informative, and then when you read it all as an arc, you see how it all ties together. And then by the time hopefully we get to the later arcs, you'll see like, oh my gosh, this reference in issue 1 was what happened in issue 2. Like, for example, and I won't spoil this either, I noted that in Tokyo there are no guns allowed.
Yeah.
How exactly do you stop such a thing from happening we're gonna find that out, and it's rather horrifying.
Oh, okay. So,
And I tease it in one of the covers, but I don't think anyone's caught it yet. So
this comic has the capability of getting a little bit more graphic.
Oh, this is incredibly okay. I have often said that my books were always something that everyone could read. You know, E for everyone. This is the exception. Like people die in this book, like horrifying deaths. When we meet Miko in the first issue, and I'll spoil this just to maybe get some people enticed. Her first word is die because she's getting pressured by these group of ruffians, and she just isn't having it. So she pulls out her laser sword and goes die, and she kills them straight up, like including slicing one of them through the neck with her laser sword. And it's like, yeah, they're dead. So
what was the laser sword inspiration? Is that any form of like Star Wars inspiration there?
Well, the Star Wars is the joke. That's why I say laser sword instead of lightsaber, because I can't legally say that. But I just like, if this is Tokyo and they're in the future, they wouldn't just have regular blades. They would have something that was special. And so and I wanted to show that though this is a Tokyo that embraces their past in terms of, you know, the references to the lore, and even many of their looks are like traditional, like with kimonos and such.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to show that, you know, they're still incredibly powerful in their technology. Like Miko's outfit actually can transform into butterfly wings so she can glide around if she gets a high enough vantage point.
That is so awesome.
Oh yeah, that was one of the first things I thought. I was like, she's gotta have butterfly wings. And we show that in the previous arc, and then with the Ninetales, their armor is malleable. We teased that with Rika in the previous issue, and then we have the Tau, who use micro machines, like nanotechnology, to make it seem like they're doing magic, because that's how advanced they are. So the laser swords were just an extension of showing that just how futuristic this Japan is.
You ever see Big Hero 6?
Yeah, I remember that.
So the nano part, like when you said to make him seem like he's doing magic, I was just instantly thought of the villain from Big Hero 6, like how he's on the nano machines and he's just like doing all his destruction bidding and stuff. Like that's cool. That is so awesome. Yeah. So, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, and in this arc, we're going to see even more technology via the tools that Miko and Mishi are going to use to try and defeat the Ninetales, as well as the Ninetales doing whatever he can to get the target. And so that's why I said next issue is basically going to be the raid, because we're going to have like this incredible sequence of action where it's just like everything's getting chaotic and technology is being thrown, and you know, people are going to be going through walls.
That's so awesome.
It's going to be, I can't wait for that.
So, you know, it's always been funny too with lightsabers, the argument, like how they never, like when they're fighting, they'll never like make it go back in. Like when they go to swing, instead of blocking, like just kind of unsheath it and then just pop it back in, you know? Kind of like a fake out. I always like, the more you think about it, it's like, wow, dude, a lot of these fights could have went so differently. If you went like for a fake out block and then like
plot.
So let's start breaking down the team, of course. So this is a team effort.
Yes, very much so. So for this issue, I have Lam Vivan, who's my artist, who's my dedicated artist. He's the penciler, inker, and colorist of the entire issue. He's been working with me throughout Tokyo, and he's doing really, really well. He's from Vietnam, which I always seem to find the international artists, which is fine because they're incredible. But yeah, he's a really great guy. And then my editor, as you scroll down, is Matt Shore. He's a dear friend of mine. He's also a comic maker. He has his own set of series. He also had his own Kickstarter go well recently with Moby Dick. He has a zombie Moby Dick story. It's awesome. and then Alex Garcia, he is my he's my go-to artist for many of my books, and he does all the covers for Tokyo, and then he's also gonna be the letterer on this book. So and like as I note there, if I need something done, if I need help on any kind of style, I go to Alex because he's just so incredible. So, and then there's me, Todd, writer. Nice to meet you.
Where's your little thing at?
I don't like to talk about myself.
Hey, I always have love for someone who's all about putting the team on without really giving themselves much credit. Because like if it was for you, this wouldn't happen, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's partially true, but if it wasn't for them, it'd just be an idea in my head.
Touche.
I appreciate them, especially Lam, who again is just so incredible with the art and the styling and the coloring and the action sequences. I can't wait to see. We're just now in terms of where we are with the comic. We're still working on it while the Kickstarter is going because we want to get it out to our backers as soon as possible. And we recently just got to like where the action scenes are starting, and I'm like, oh, here we go, because I can't wait to see what he does.
This is the fun part, right?
Yeah.
So we're at the rewards. Let's go ahead and scroll back up and start knocking out the tiers before we get to the rewards, because I think those would go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I pledged for the PDF, so when we get to the PDF, well, I think that actually is the starting one, so yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, so we start off, actually there's a few more above that if you want to, on the rewards. Yeah, there you go.
Wait, right here.
Yeah, so I have a $1 reward tier, and that sounds so cliche, but I do it because sometimes people want to support me, but they don't have a lot of money to spend. So I say, here, give them $1, and then I don't tell them this, but then once the thing is done, I just go ahead and send them a PDF of the comic because they pledged.
Yeah, that's so cool. That is so cool of you, and you've had 7 people back. Like,
and sometimes, and they're like, oh, does $1 really help? It does, because if nothing else, it gets the backer count up. And my personal goal, now that we are funded, my stretch goal, if you will, is to get to 100 backers. And we have 9 days to get 19 backers, and I hope we can get there. And if 19 people come up and pledge $1, I'm not going to be mad at that, and they'll get a comic for their.
That's it. I'm gonna have to manage my pledge and go back down to $1.
Sure.
I'm just playing.
I know you are, but I'm just like, some people have done that already to me. So I was like,
he pulls out the laser blade. He's like, shh, say again.
It's like, yeah, about that. So, moving on, we have the $3 pledge, which is arguably one of the most basic. If you pledge there, you get the digital copy of Tokyo Bay Detectives #5. Short, sweet, and to the point.
And then we have the $5 pledge, which is up here.
Yeah. So that was one that you did, and basically, you get the PDF, and you'll be getting some special backer-only reward tiers where I will show you what's coming up with not just #5, but #6 once we start working on that, which is also how I use to help promote the Kickstarter by showing like, hey, we got this coming up, and here's some of the art for it. You're gonna get to see it first.
Yeah. That's all. And for me, like I'm a sucker for PDFs. Like if I'm able to support a campaign, I mean, $5 is easy to throw at.
Yeah.
Especially with updates for issue 6, I just thought that was a no-brainer.
Yeah. So, and for me, that's something I learned over time. I have to have digital and physical rewards because there are people who must have a physical copy, and then the people who must have the digital copy.
Well, even for international shipping too, it just saves so much cost. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes. Don't get me wrong. I love my international backers, and I have had some already on this Kickstarter. But sometimes I wish they would just go for the digital ones, just so I can not have to worry about. Because I hate filling out customs forms; they are the worst. Here is a great example for those who want to get into Tokyo but haven't read anything. This $10 pledge, you'll get all 5 issues digitally. So that's that's $2 a comic. So that's not too bad. And this way you'll be perfectly caught up. You'll have the whole story in your hands, and then if you want to continue, you don't have to pledge $10 the next time. You could pledge 3 or 5. So. And then the next $10 reward is the physical copy of Tokyo Bay Detectives #5, which has been a popular one over the years. And you pledge there, you get that, and I'll even send you the PDF for free for #5 if you want.
Okay.
So next up we have 15, which is the thank you page. This is one that came because of Home. I realized that I really wanted to thank my backers. And so I made a thank you page, and this will be on the inside front cover, and it's basically, it'll have your name or whatever name you want to put on there, so that everyone who reads the comic will see that you helped make this book happen.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And then what I do is that if you pledge, like we already got 8 backers, but anyone who pledges above that rank also gets put into the thank you page, because they're pledging even more. So I'm like, of course I need to thank them for that. So. But yeah, and then the other $15 reward is what I call, it was one of my favorites. This is the super digital reward. If you pledge $15, you will get PDFs of basically every comic I've ever made.
Yeah, 40. That's fucking insane.
Pretty much. There's like 1 or 2 I can't give away, but you'll get the majority. And even 3 of my Sherlock Holmes novels for free. So you're basically
that's
getting
insane.
over 40.
That's insane.
books and issues for $15. I feel that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's like what, like
So,
50 cents a book, if not even
something like that.
lower. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And as you can see, we've already had plenty of backers to that. So,
Mhm.
which further enhances the fact that I need to have digital and physical rewards because there are people who absolutely will go for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this one is a mixing of you getting the physical copy of Tokyo, but all the digital comics as well, should you want that. Scroll down.
Whoops.
Yeah, that $25 reward. This is my attempt to try and pay it forward. If you have a comic idea, a comic script that you want looked over, I will give you a portfolio review and lend my expertise, if I can call it that, and say like, okay, you should do this better, or hey, this looks really good.
Yeah.
No one's budged that yet, but that's fine. And I actually have an enhanced version of that comes a little bit later. This next one was a very important one for me to do. The physical story of Tokyo. If you pledge there, you will get physical copies of all 5 issues of Tokyo.
Which that's not bad at all. It's $6 a book.
Yeah, and then the real thing is shipping. Like the real thing is shipping there. So, and I've already got plenty of backers for that, which makes me happy. So that was an important thing. This is the fun one. This is if you pledge $50, you will get drawn into Tokyo. Blade Detectives number 5, and I've already had some very special requests. I had one guy go, "Can I be drawn as a ninja?" I'm like, "Sure." So
yeah, hey,
give
50
the
bucks is
people
50
what they
bucks,
want.
yeah.
Give the people what they want. But the catch here is that this is one of the limited rewards that I have, and we already have. We can only
6 backers too. That's phenomenal.
So there's only 4 spots left. So if you watching want to get drawn into the comic, you better pledge now.
So was this one of the first times that you did be drawn into the
No,
Tokyo Blade
actually,
series?
this was something that happened with Home. It was one of my bigger comic rewards because I actually had to where they would become a main character in the story. But then when I did like 10,000 miles and then Tokyo, I realized that I could, expand a little bit, have more people drawn in, and this would obviously help me get closer to my funding goal. But yeah, this is one I do every issue, and I already showed you the panel where they're going to be drawn in.
Yeah,
so that was yeah.
We'll scroll down to the bottom too, because that's right underneath the rewards.
Yeah. So the $75 reward is I'm going to help you full stop make comics. I will look over your script. I will help you. I will guide you on where to look for artists. And then if you want to do a Kickstarter, I will guide you as best I can with that. And I actually believe I still have a backer for that. So that was a pretty nice thing. So
let's go, dude. Okay. So
yeah, people have helped me make comics, so I want to return the favor.
Do you have any idea like what they want to do yet, or is that something that's still okay?
I contact them once the Kickstarter is done, and then we start from there. And then the ultimate comic package, if you must have all or most of my books physically, you pledge there, and that's how you get them.
And I mean, still, it's still at $150. I mean, you're getting 40 books.
Yeah. Again, it's mainly the printing and shipping. That's
like what, like
there.
It's $4 a copy though. I mean,
pretty
like that's insane. Like this would be good for like even like a retail store,
Yeah.
Like, because you'd be able to like turn around and make a couple bucks off of that.
Yeah. So I already got 2 backers there, so that made me happy. But yeah, I've got those who are new to Tokyo, who are familiar with Tokyo, who just want to support me because they know me or they like me and my hair. And so I've got some
nice hair.
Thank you. But yeah, I've got backing tiers for any kind of person. So yeah, for you watching, if you can only pledge $1, that's fine. If you want to pledge more, I appreciate it, and spread the word. I really would. I really want to get to 100 backers. We're 19 away, and any help you can give is most appreciated.
And we do have the link. I'll be posting that right in the comments for everyone if they're interested to check this out as well. So the rewards, this just goes over kind of what you were talking about earlier.
I gave a loose example.
All right, so let's go ahead. We'll start wrapping things up. So Todd, I know that we were kind of talking about this previously, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the Kickstarter as well. You've kind of experienced a little bit of like plateauing, you were saying. What has that done to you, like, I guess, like mentally? Like, what does that do for an indie comic creator in terms of watching their campaign? Because I know you're probably watching that thing like every, second of the hour.
something like that. I am a broken man. No, I'm joking. I was once whole. No, what the thing was is that, as we noted earlier, my project got funded like 13 hours, and that took a great stress off of me. And then the goal was, okay, let's get to 100 backers. And that sounds arbitrary, but with the first arc, I honestly averaged about 100 backers, and that just feels like a good milestone to know that 100 people liked my book enough to pledge to it. And so I was promoting and doing podcasts and whatnot to try and get to that goal. And then on Friday, I made my last post before having to do a Comic-Con on Saturday, so I had like no promotion going. And I was like, hey, I'm about at 80, let's see where we can go. And then a friend pledged to be my 80th backer. I'm like, oh, thank you. I was like, let's keep it going. Then I reached 81, then I reached 82, back to 81, back to 82, back to 81, lost it, got back to 81. Now I'm like stuck. And every time I like go up, it's like someone cancels their pledge. I'm just like, what is going on? And I've talked to people who have canceled, and they're like, I do apologize, something happened and I have to resend. And like, that's fine, I totally get it, but it's just like, it's almost like it's mocking me, because like you're trying to get to 100. I was on a steady pace of like getting like 1 or 2 backers a day, and then all of a sudden I hit this plateau, and it hurts because you see other Kickstarters, which I'm not bashing anybody, but they're like getting like 5-10 a day, and you wonder, like, what am I doing differently to not get that kind of response? Is it my book? Is it me? Am I not promoting enough? Am I not doing enough? Do I need to make sure I have someone who can pledge or promote constantly on my team, which I might do next time? It gets in your head, because when you want that stretch goal, you try and make it happen. I've done what I can to make it happen, but I haven't reached it yet, which is fine. But then you counter that with like, well, Todd, you're like you're 242 something percent above where you need to be. And I'm like, and that's true, and I'm grateful, and we are totally going to make the comic. It's going to be really awesome, and I'm grateful for everyone who's pledged.
But you set those goals, and you want to reach them. I can definitely respect that. Like, even though like you're fully funded, like you in your mind, you still want to break 100.
Yeah. And the other thing is, for an indie guy like me, my fan base is small, and I have to do what I can to grow it. I have a core group, which can be shown in the 80 backers that I have. I have a core group that absolutely will pledge to me every time, and I'm grateful for them. But then when I have a project that I want to do later this year potentially, and it will be arguably the most expensive Kickstarter I've ever done. So I want to expand my fan base so that I know that I have as many people as possible potentially pledging early that can inspire other people to come later. So by getting that 100 constantly, consistently, then growing that, I can say to myself, okay, this is how many I feel I can get with this Kickstarter, and then let's try and go up from there. So it's that kind of a thing. Again, I'm very happy to be at this funding goal, to be 1,800. I have made more money with less backers than I did in my last Kickstarter, which is really weird when you really think about it. So
what are some of the things you're trying to do to break through this plateau? Like, I guess, are you seeing any sort of light at the end of the tunnel, or are you just kind of like holding by until, because like we talked about earlier, they often say that the last day or two of Kickstarters usually is the first day and the last day is when you see the most traffic. So what are you doing to keep your sanity during these days?
Just pledging. Oh, sorry. Yes, I pledged to myself. Which I pledge to myself. No, I promote when I can. I try and do it in the morning and at night, and I try and tag my friends so that they can RT it or whatever. I actually went to my previous Kickstarter, number 4, and went through the list of all the people who hadn't pledged, and I sent them a private message. And some of them, thankfully, have pledged since then. Others haven't. Others have told me, I will pledge. I just got to get some things worked out. So I'm sure I'll at least get to like 85, maybe close to 90, maybe. But you never know. And then of course I'm doing shows. Like, I've never been on Keeping It Geekly, but I will try and make that a recurring thing going forward.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, like reaching out to new shows. I've done at least 3 new shows during this campaign so that I can try and reach new people. And because I gotta keep going and kind of keep plugging and see who I can reach. And like I know that you mentioned 2 people from before. I can guarantee you they've never pledged to a Kickstarter of mine before, probably because they've never even heard of me before, which is fine.
Yeah.
And if they were to pledge, then I know that this was a success, even though I know it's a success just because I'm talking with you, man.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Because that's one of my biggest things. Like, I always like have a fear that, like, indie comic creators, like, because it's, you want backers, but like sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for this show to translate to that. I tried my best though to personalize this interview like around the creator, and do my best, because even if you don't get a backing from this, you're able to use this as promotional material to push, towards other backers, at the end of the day. Like, even if it works out in that case, I feel like I did my job successfully.
You've done your job successfully. And if nothing else, then I have found someone else who is willing to let me talk.
Yeah, dude,
nice.
I seriously had such a fantastic time. It's unreal to hear that you have so much under your belt in so little time. So I ask this question every time, and I'm really excited to ask you this question as well. For anyone that's out there, who's starting out as an indie comic creator and they're having troubles kind of just getting their idea to translate to paper, or even just to start off with their idea, what type of advice would you offer them to kind of just get going?
Well, this is actually apropos because the Comic-Con I'm going to be doing this weekend, I'm going to have a panel where I talk about indie comics, and my concept is believe in your comics, because and it sounds so cliche, it's like that sports speech that the coach gives at the end of or right before the big game, but It's true. You have to believe in yourself and your comic, because if you don't believe it, why should anybody else believe in it? So for me, I believed in Guardians and Home and 10,000 Miles and Thunder Rosa and Tokyo Blade Detectives and my Sherlock books, because I believe that they were good stories and I believe that they needed to be made. And did it take a long time to get them written or done? Absolutely. But because of my belief in the stories that I was making, I was able to get them done. I was able to put in the work, to do the work, to reach out, to find the people, to find the artists, to make the money so that I could get this done. And so to those out there, and again, this is why I had that one Kickstarter reward, so I could try and give them that knowledge. But if you are someone out there, either a writer or an artist who wants to get into this business, I do recommend it. It's very, very fun. Believe in yourself, believe in what you can do, and then push to get it done. So if that's writing, then work hard to get your script done and then show it to somebody. I highly recommend showing it to somebody. Do it, whether it be a professional editor or just someone you trust. See what they have to say about it. And then if you're an artist, do the grind. Like I was talking with someone over a con weekend. She goes, I want to be a comic artist, but I'm not that good. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. You think you're not good. There are plenty of professional artists who sometimes don't like their own work or refuse to look at past issues because they're like, oh, what was I thinking drawing that? Art is so subjective. There are professional Marvel and DC comic artists, and I'm not going to name names, but I've looked at their work and I go, they got paid to do this.
It looks like you just had Lori back you as the 82nd. Let's go, Lori. Thank you so much.
Mwah! Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
But it's appreciated. Now go get your friends to do the same. Spread the word. But no, it's just like everyone has their art that they like. Everyone has their art that they don't like. And you just need to keep doing the grind. Like my guy Alex, when he started working with me on Guardians, his art was not the best, but now he's the guy that I trust the most if I need a project to get done. And then Lam Vuvan, I accidentally ran into him on Facebook and he impressed me. And now I can't imagine doing Tokyo without him.
Isn't it crazy how those connections just evolve into what they become? Like, it's just insane to think back.
But if I didn't, and Tokyo was another example of me believing in myself, because I believed I needed to have a special look for the comic and I had to find the right person. That was Lam. So, and if I didn't believe in that, and even if I was just winning with Alex, I know Alex would have done good work, but maybe it may not have been the same as what with Lam, and Lam probably wouldn't have done the same that Alex could have done on with one of my other books, which is why I trust Alex so much. There's a purpose to this, and so with your writings or with your artists, you've got to believe, because if you believe, you will get it done.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I really appreciate you stopping on. Guys, sorry for having such an itchy nose. As you know, I love cats. I hit 30. Well, as soon as I hit 30, indigestion came flaring its ugly teeth, and I became allergic to cats. So my allergies were actually starting to flare up, and sometimes my nose gets itchy, which is like the worst. Like, not only do I have a runny nose, but then I get an itch like right at the tip, and it just drives me bonkers. But Todd, once again, thank you so much for stopping on, breaking down just your history as an indie comic creator and giving us just a wealth of information as well. It was just phenomenal. I really love this interview so much. For everyone that was in the audience, thank you for watching. Lori, once again, thank you so much for backing. That's
Thank you, Lori.
It's such a phenomenal experience when it happens live on the show. Most importantly, guys, I hope you have a fantastic Thursday, and you know what to do. Be sure to keep it geekly.